Well, welcome everyone. Greetings, greetings. Everybody showed up. I'm appreciative. I think we'll go ahead and get started. It'll be a few minutes before 5:30, but we're right on schedule. So we've been doing the Living Treasures since 1995. So a little invocation: one more day to serve, one more hour to love, one more minute to praise. For this we are grateful. This is a Rotary event, so we'll do the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Does it build goodwill and better friendships? Is it beneficial to all concerned? So the way this event goes is I say a few words, then we're going to have Al West, National Forest Service, Deputy Chief of the National Forest Service, and then we'll have the treasures that were inducted last year say a few words about what they did and give an example to the incoming treasures. Then we give the incoming treasures their certificate and a pin, and they need to stay around and get a photograph after. So my few words are that Living Treasures has evolved. It was conceived by Sanford Drucker when he was in the infantry in the Aleutians in World War II. This was a very high mortality rate, and he wanted to promote goodwill and fellowship and good health when he got back from the war. This involved meetings for several years, and ultimately Treasures began in 1995. That would be Living Treasures of Ojai. In the year 2002, Rotary took it over, and I've been the chair since then. This is the 16th year Rotary has been doing Treasures. Sanford passed away in 2011. His legacy lives on through Rotary. His wife Christine has been named as a treasure. There are really two Rotary clubs in Ojai, the Tuesday and the Friday. This is a joint committee between the two committees, two clubs, and it's called Rotary Clubs of Ojai Living Treasures. We have a website. Dr. Gross manages that. It's RCOLT, as in Rotary Clubs of Ojai Living Treasures. Or you can just Google Rotary and Ojai Living Treasures, and you'll be brought to the website. The people who are already treasures are featured on the website by year. You can call up their picture and their little bio about them. And this year we're adding something to the website. If you go to the website and find the link, you can see a video on YouTube of this event. You can see it high density and hear it. It's like you're there. And Stephen Adams on the committee is in charge of that. He's a photographer. So in the first years, Treasures had to do a project for their treasure year. More recently, Treasures are doing a lot of projects already, and their job is just to be themselves and be available to do counseling on a project if called by the community. We ask them to say a few words at a Rotary meeting. The criteria for being a living treasure is to be a leader in one's field and a role model and community service oriented. Thomas Edison would have been a living treasure. We feel that Treasures is a community service, and it motivates people to do community service, and it's a Rotary project. Treasures are featured one at a time throughout the year in the Ojai Valley News. Treasures are invited to ride in the Oakview Memorial Day Parade and also the Ojai Independence Day Parade. and lead the balloon march in Music in the Park in the summer. We've created a lapel pin for all treasurers, and incoming treasurers get one, and if there are any treasurers who would like one, I'll be glad to give you one. So now I'm going to have Al West say a few words. As I say, he's chief of the U.S. Forest Service, which has a lot to do with fires. So we're going to have a little brief discussion.
Thank you, Fred. Yeah, I've been retired about 30 years, so I was the Deputy Chief of the U.S. Forest Service, but also Ranger here in Ojai and the Los Padres Forest Supervisor at one time. You know, it's just a few short months ago that our beautiful valley was under siege because of a wildfire. The Thomas Fire, as you all know, grew to become the largest fire in California's history. And it caused untold damage to property and lives. And in the days it burned, and for weeks after, there were very many heroes and treasures putting their lives on hold while they helped and assisted those who lost their homes and their livelihood. Many citizens nominated these unsung heroes to be living treasures. And as that, the committee felt that we should publicly recognize them as treasures tonight, not by name, but you know who they are and who helped. They did many things. And since we only select 6 people to be living treasures, we couldn't get all of these living treasures that were involved in the Thomas Fire and honor them. So that's why I was asked if I would say a few words. The living treasures that we're going to induct today and those of the past have a long-term history of volunteering in the Ojai Valley. So I just want for you all to know that among us, and you know who they are, there are many treasures who helped and continue to help for those that were less fortunate and had their homes and livelihoods lost. So thank you for all you did, and I know some are still helping. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Al. I want to introduce the Treasures Committee. Brett Bradigan, just, stand up or wave. Kathy Doubleday, thank you for the food. Dr. Rick Gould, there he is. Dr. Carl Gross, that's the website. John Haig, there he is. Al West, who just spoke, and Steve Adams behind the camera. I want to recognize Roger Phelps, who supplies the equipment and the knowledge to run the sound. And we actually have high-quality sound recordings. As they say, it'll be a way to get to YouTube and watch the thing on your computer after it's linked. Okay, now the previous treasures will say a few words. We'll just come up one at a time. Phil Carruthers and Arina Swope have been mentored by Al West. Take your time, walk up. We're just seated in the seats.
Thank you, Doctor. Ryan and I are deeply honored to have been selected as an Ojai Living Treasure team, and it puts us on the list with some very remarkable people here in the Ojai Valley, and I was very pleasantly surprised to hear that we're in the company of Thomas Edison as well. So we want to thank those who nominated us. It's an honor that's also a bit embarrassing because I was recognized for activities that give me pleasure and pride. It gives my life extra meaning when I can help others and hopefully make my world just a little bit better. So I've been fortunate to be involved in supporting two of the most important assets in the Valley, and that's the public school system and the hospital. I served on the board of the Ojai Education Foundation for 8 years, during which I was a treasurer, database manager, and webmaster. The OEF supports the schools via grants to the teachers, classroom technology, and special projects. And during my time on the board, we raised and donated about $500,000 to the public schools who sorely need our support. I'm also serving on the Citizens Oversight Committee, overseeing the expenditures from the recent Measure J bond fund for the schools. Recently, my focus has been on the Ojai Hospital through membership in the Hospital Foundation Guild and the Hospital Foundation Board. We're really lucky to have a hospital here. It's so important to the quality of life in the Valley. I served as president of the Guild, and Ryan and I were co-chairs of the Nightingale Ball one year, which is the hospital's major fundraising event. And currently I'm serving on the Hospital Foundation Board. So if you're not currently involved in some community activity, I urge you to get involved. I think you'll be glad you did. Thanks for being here, and thanks to all of you who have supported the Ojai Education Foundation and the Ojai Hospital. And now a few words from my living treasurer and partner and wife, Irina.
I don't remember a speaker on the left. Phil and I have both served on the boards of the Ojai Film Society and the Ojai Hospital Guild, but not at the same time. His experience on the Ojai Film Society helped me understand what to expect when I joined the board. And I like to think that my involvement with the Hospital Guild increased his commitment to the Guild. I've been privileged to work with two other important nonprofits in the Ojai Valley. The Ojai Festival Women's Committee is the single largest donor to the Ojai Music Festival, with donations exceeding $60,000 per year. Shortly after we moved to Ojai, I became interested and was asked to serve on the board. I can tell you that at that time, I had never served on a board. I hardly knew what it meant, but it's hard to resist the committed women of the festival, and soon I was on the road to being president for 1 year, and I've been on the board in one capacity or another ever since. The festival, which is internationally renowned, brings much to the town of Ojai, not only by bringing dollars that are spent by festival goers, but by outreach to the community with free concerts and, most importantly, education. The Bravo program brings music education to the elementary schools of the Ojai Valley and to the elderly. I believe very strongly the importance of music education for children and the comfort it brings to the elderly. My role on the board as chair of the Holiday Home Look-In, now called the Holiday Home Tour, for 5 years was most rewarding. The Holiday Home Tour and Marketplace is our biggest fundraiser, and the proceeds from that alone have grown to over $50,000 a year. 3 years ago, I was asked to help form a new organization, the Ojai Women's Fund. Started by Karen Evenden and Peggy Russell, two of the most giving women I have ever met. Peggy has been honored as a living treasure, and there's a secret coming. She's in the past. No. The Ojai Women's Fund is an all-volunteer collective giving circle dedicated to making substantial grants on an annual basis to organizations that target critical needs in the Ojai Valley. In the first 2 years, the Ojai Women's Fund has raised and distributed over $120,000 to 16 grantees. By serving on the steering committee as education co-chair, I have learned of the needs in the Ojai Valley that I was unaware of before, and equally important, how wonderful it is to work with a group of women dedicated to help solve these problems, and how generous the women of Ojai are. The message we try to give potential new members, especially encouraging younger women, is that giving feels good. We want younger women to start doing what they can as early as they can, and to begin to understand philanthropy and how good it feels when you can make a difference in someone's life. Thanks.
Thank you. I think philanthropy is a good word, especially with that couple. Now Bob Denny, who's been mentored by Dr. Gould, will say a few words. He's been on our committee as well. Oh, good, you can stand up. Great.
A couple of things I can still do. Anyway, I too am appreciative of being named a living treasure. I'm not quite sure what, there might be a lot more deserving than I was. But I've enjoyed working here in the Valley. Our family came here 29 years ago, and I was still working, and then I was introduced to Rotary Club, and that was kind of really the beginning of really jumping in with both feet. Started off working with the wine festival, and then worked with the summer band concert and the concerts in the park, which is my favorite activity. And I'm also prejudiced because my wife is now the director of it. So it's a family affair. And of course, it's supported by one of the Rotary Clubs. And this year we have the special privilege of actually performing on the 3rd of July, the day before the 4th, in the Libby Bowl for everybody to come to a free concert. And the following Wednesday, 11th, for 6 weeks, free concerts in the park. The more the merrier. Popcorn, lemonade, balloons for the kids. We do it all. One of the things that I found out very quickly about Rotary is their motto. It's service above self. And it really says it all. I can't imagine being more involved with anything than I have with the Rotary Club. And it's kind of rubs off because, like Phil, we got involved with the OEF, my wife and I. And then basically I'm working at the bookstore for a little afternoon in the week. And the more I can do, the better I like it. I have to choose things I can do now, which is maybe the phone or sitting down. Can't do a lot of moving around, but I'll still find something to do. Thank you so very much.
Yes, thank you. This family's been involved in education and music as well as what Bob said. Did I introduce Bill Hatch? I'm not sure I did he's a member of our committee. So next is Lynn Doherty, who will be mentored by Steve Adams. Lynn? Oh, sorry. Oh, you're right. Yeah. Well, Judy Hammond has been mentored by Kathy Doubleday.
Hello, thank you so much. I wasn't here last year for this because I was in New Orleans and helping my mom move out of our family home, and the home that also was my dad's ballet studio was there. So I said goodbye to that last year. It was a year of a lot of surprises, especially this. Some of you heard me talk about this at Rotary, but I learned that I was a living treasure when I was sitting in hospice with my older brother. And the phone rang. I thought I had it on, silent, which usually I don't. And I answered it. I just saw an 805, and I thought, oh, maybe my son needs me or someone's trying to call from home. And it was Kathy. And she said, Marty Babeko has nominated you as an Ojai living treasure. And that was one of the most surreal moments of my entire life, I can promise you that. Because my brother passed away 2 days later, and I knew he was going to. And to be singled out. I know about Living Treasures. I've followed the Living Treasures for a long time. I worked with Marty Babako and Jay Hirsch and Jim Halverson, and I could go on and on, all the Living Treasures I know. Never in a zillion years imagining that I would be chosen. So that was a huge surprise. It was a surprise to lose my brother. He was too young. It was a surprise to say goodbye to my family home. There were just lots of surprises. But the biggest surprise was, and I can't tell you when this happened, this was somewhere in the middle of the year, and I'm comforted actually by the other Living Treasures talking about how you're a little bit uncomfortable about being a Living Treasure. It makes you feel like, why me? How could that happen? I felt that for about 6 months of this year until I decided, and I do this with discomfort a lot, what could I do? How could I see this differently if I'm feeling so uncomfortable about this? And I always go to gratitude. And the minute I changed my mind about that, the cloud lifted, and it changed my perspective on a lot of things. I didn't do the Nordhoff musical this year because I felt I needed some contemplative time, a little time away, think through everything that had happened. And of course, when I went to the musical, I missed it so much. And I did feel immense gratitude for the 10 years that I spent doing it. But what I was getting to is the biggest surprise of all was when I found out that, yes, Marty nominated me in front of Rotary, but the person whose idea it was for me to be a Living Treasure was my husband. And he didn't want me to know that. He rallied the kids at Nordhoff, he rallied the production team to make this happen. And when I found that out, he is who I aspire to be. He lives his life in a way, it's the Walt Hammond way, it's a special way, it's not like anyone else you'll ever meet, and I mean that in all the most positive ways you can imagine. And he's been such an example to me through our years together, 25. And I'm just so grateful for him. I don't bring home a penny in all the things that I do, and I do a lot of different activities and get involved. And he has never made me feel less than for any of that. In fact, what I realize is he raises me up to say, you do it even if you're not being paid. And that has meant the world to me, because sometimes self-worth is a challenge for most of us, I think, or at least for me. And so I'm grateful for that. So for my birthday, on Facebook, I did a fundraiser for Ojai Cares. I just took a chance and said, it's my birthday, and if you would like to celebrate with me, please donate. And I raised over $1,000, which was kind of cool. And I was super surprised about that. I performed for the Ojai Women's Fund's fundraiser, Ojai Strong, back in September. That was fantastic. Got to do that with some of my closest friends. Coming up with Jacinta Fleming, dear friend, and Kim Hoy, we are doing a fundraiser for the dance program at Nordhoff called Sizzlin' 60s. You'll start seeing the posters around town. I hope you'll come. It'll be at the Nordhoff Cafe stage, brand new stage there for the dance program. I am going to choreograph the musical this year, and also Man of La Mancha with Marty Babako at the Ojai Arts Center. So those are just the things that I love to do. I could do it all day, every day, for the rest of my life and never want for anything else. And I thank you for this honor. I'm so grateful and humbled. And thank you, Walt. And I love you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. A lot of music and service there. Next, I'm going to have Brett Bradigan come up. And last year, Alan Jacobs was elected as a treasurer. So Brett's going to say the things Jacobs did.
Yes, Living Treasures is meant to be a celebration. So I'm going to try to focus on those aspects of Alan's life. It's ironic that I was his mentor in Living Treasures because he was my mentor in the real world. And I'm sorry, this is tough. When I first moved to Ojai, Alan called me, in the middle of winter. He'd rounded up some people he wanted me to get to know, and we hiked up to the three falls of Matilaha Creek. And it was just time to learn about his deep appreciation of the landscape, the intimate details with all the features, the way he could talk about the wild cucumber pods, how they would make coins out of them and string them together in beads, and just growing up like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. That was Alan's relationship with Ojai. He was deeply committed to the land and had served many terms on the Ojai Valley Land Conservancy. In fact, we had to switch up the order of the Living Treasures last year because I had to leave to go to the Land Conservancy board meeting where I was taking Alan's seat because he had served his time. Alan was also very committed to education in every form, especially in the early 90s. He and his brother Jack started the Ojai Education Foundation with a $25,000 bequest from one of Alan's clients. And he has tirelessly promoted that fund throughout the intervening years. In fact, that Ojai Education Foundation is now up to $4.2 million and has provided that boost of money and confidence. I think that's the most important part of the Education Foundation, is that we select these 20-some kids a year, going on over 800 now total, for their aptitude and achievement. But it's also to let them know we believe in you and we expect great things of you. And Alan really knew how to make people feel that he was my role model. He really, really was. I'm sorry. There's a few notes here. I better make sure I don't miss this stuff. Many, many hikes with Alan on the land around Ojai. That was really his passion. He was the first one to take me up Kennedy Ridge, where you can now hike pretty much all the way to Romero Canyon in Santa Barbara. It's really an impressive trail network that he has really got built and maintained. In fact, the Land Conservancy voted unanimously at our last board meeting to name the newest trail, yet to be determined, the Alan Jacobs Trail. That's a small bit of his legacy. I think when I look around at all the other living treasures, I feel a sense of Alan Jacobs in that. He was also very proud of his family, his sons Anzac and Jesse, his daughter Sarah, his grandchildren, his son-in-law Josh. In fact, in my year as a Rotary president, Alan and his brother served on the program committee, and that very first program was Alan's son-in-law, who survived 2 bouts of cancer as a young man to become a cardiologist, a well-regarded cardiologist, and spoke passionately about all of his commitments and involvements, and it was just beautiful. Really, I could go on. I don't think I will, but Alan loved the land. He loved the kids of Ojai, the students. He loved giving them a boost. But most of all, he was my friend, and I miss him.
Quite a guy, very active Rotarian, created the Land Conservancy and the Ed Foundation. Now, Richard and Cheryl MacArthur will say a few words.
These are all very hard to follow. Going first? He told me to go first. Darn. We arrived in Ojai 41 years ago and have raised our 2 wonderful sons here. We love this town, and we feel very fortunate to live here, work here, and provide jobs for 15 people. Through our business, Ojai Lumber, we've been able to donate materials for sets for the Ojai Art Center productions and for Nordhoff High School musicals. Over the years, we've been able to contribute to a variety of events and projects here in Ojai. I've taught school, I've substitute taught in Ojai, and taught adult education classes. I enjoyed volunteering in our sons' classrooms. And more recently, I've been volunteered in all 5 of our grandchildren's classrooms during their elementary school years. We owned another hardware store in the town of Lompoc for several years, and I became very active with downtown redevelopment and was surprised with receiving Volunteer of the Year award since we never actually lived in that town. I surprised myself getting involved in that enterprise. For 49 years, I've been active in a women's philanthropic educational organization named PEO. Richard's mom introduced me to this group. It's an international organization that provides scholarships for deserving women. There are 2 PEO chapters in Ojai and over 500 chapters in California. PEO also owns a college, Cotty College, the only college for women owned by women in the United States. I've enjoyed being part of a quilting group here in town that has created numerous quilts for fundraising for the Ojai Hospital, as well as the Ojai Valley Museum. Rich and I have served in various positions at the Ojai Presbyterian Church and many other organizations here in town. I was reminded very recently of a quote from the former First Lady Barbara Bush. Never lose sight of the fact that the most important yardstick for your success will be how you treat other people, your family, your friends, your co-workers, and even strangers you meet along the way. My grandpa, I always remember saying, be kind. It feels good to stay busy, and hopefully we are contributing to make life better for those around us. I know there are many deserving people in our community. I thank you for this honor, and I thank Stephanie Majette for nominating us.
I've been involved in scouting since we arrived in the Valley. I've served as Cub Master, Webelos leader, troop committee member, and I'm still a merit badge counselor. Both our sons earned the Eagle Scout Award, and through a lot of hard work. Through the lumberyard, we've been able to donate materials to Eagle Scout projects throughout the Valley. I'm a charter member of the Rotary Club of Ojai West, and when I was president, implemented the dictionary project. And during our morning meetings in January, we go and visit every 3rd grade classroom in the Valley and give each one of them a gazetteer dictionary. Now that's a little more than a regular dictionary because it has about half of it is weights and measures, things about planets, and that's what they all write about on their thank you notes all the time. So they actually keep the book and they find it interesting rather than just a plain dictionary. We put 4-way test sticker on the first page where the students write their name. And every 3rd grade class, or every 3rd grade student in the Valley for the last 15 years has received a dictionary. I served as chairman of our Rotary Club Centennial Project, which is the community park at the Y. For many years, it was behind the scenes before Bob took over, the behind the scenes for the summer band concerts. The Valley is a very special place with so many people volunteering their time and effort to benefit others. Thank you for this honor.
Philanthropists is a good term there. When everybody closed their doors for the fire, they kept paying their staff until they opened again. Thank you, previous treasurers, outgoing. Keep up the good work. Next, the incoming treasurers. This year we have Dave Mason is receiving an award posthumously. He gets the Sanford Drucker Lifetime Achievement Award, and Carl Gross is going to say a few words.
Thank you, Fred. Get my cheat sheet out of here. I'm both honored and humbled to present this first-time Sanford Drucker Award for Lifetime Achievement to David Mason. I just wanted to, thank you. I wanted to tell you a little bit about David. A lot of us have been old-time Ojai people, knew him well. He touched a lot of lives. David Miller Mason was born on Bastille Day, 1939 in Ojai. Except for his military service in the Air Force, David was a lifelong resident of the Ojai Valley. He left us last year on July 22nd, but he also left us with a sense of Ojai's rich history and an appreciation for those that came before us to live in this special place. He had a warmth of spirit that affected all who had the pleasure of knowing him. Each year when we put out our ballots for Living Treasure nominees, his name was most often submitted. Each year we'd notify him of his nomination, and each year he would turn us down. At the time, we asked that Living Treasures would commit to doing a project, and this rankled him. He recognized that he was doing a lot of stuff, and he felt rightfully that he didn't need to do any additional things. Recognizing that it was right, we dropped that requirement some time ago. So, David, we felt it fitting that you garner this well-deserved award. To quote Sanford Drucker, "You are treasured." David was forever remembered for his kindness and generosity, whether it was covering tuition for a local student who went to Thatcher, who later became an attorney who represents those in need, spending countless hours volunteering at the Visitor Center, serving on the board of the Ojai Museum, the Ojai Cultural Heritage Foundation, or championing the rebuilding of the pergola. David was turned down twice by the city council, but marshaled enough support to make that pergola a reality in 1999. David was our local official historian, a self-described nosy Rosie and gossip. He collected letters, postcards, and other memorabilia, which he donated to the Ojai Museum. He had a wealth of information and published these stories in the Ojai Valley News under Memories of the Ojai Valley. He was known as Mr. Ojai. The moniker came from his email address he changed at his florist shop, and the name caught on. He loved old Hollywood and all the actors and the glamour, and became close friends with many of the local stars that frequented the Ojai in the glory years. One of his favorites was Rita Hayworth, the red-headed bombshell. He just had a thing for her. And while he was working at the Ojai Valley Inn, he encountered her coming off a round of golf without makeup, looking disheveled, and this disturbed him greatly. He came back later that evening to report for duty, and he was delighted to see that she came out in a beautiful dress, well coiffed, and like he saw her in the movies. He was close friends with June Allison, oftentimes accompanying her to various events, Larry Hagman, and actors too many to mention. David Mason was proprietor of the Village Florist, initially on Signal Street, and then he moved to the Arcade. His Christmas trees, impeccably decorated with animated figures, model trains, scenes of Christmas, captured the magic of the holidays for the young and old alike. All this did not go unnoticed. He was named Ojai Citizen of the Year in 1986 and was Grand Marshal for the 4th of July Parade in 1999. He touched us all with his quick wit, generosity, and support of the Ojai community. David, this is for you. I would at this time like to call up Lenny Roberts. He has a committee who's been working hard on a special plaque here, and I'd like him to tell you about it.
Yes, David. I became a living treasure in the early days, 1997, and just wanted to just acknowledge Sanford, and I'm sure he would be very proud of what living treasures has become. After David left us, immediately got the idea of honoring him in a way that I'm sure that he would have liked. As Dr. Gross said, David spearheaded the pergola, among other things, but his focus at that time, and had difficulties doing it, was rebuilding the pergola. So I got the idea to have a plaque made, and it became very easy to do. It took a long time, but became very easy to do. And with the help of my wife Kay and all the people who donated, coincidentally, the plaque was finished last week, and Kay and I picked it up on Sunday. So I would like to unveil that before I give it to Mayor Johnson and the City Council for mounting. It's going to go as you're looking toward the arcade. If you're inside Libby Park, on the extreme right side, the first, whatever it is, what is it? Whatever it's called, the column. Okay, that's where it's going to go, so that you can't leave the park without seeing it and remembering David. So thank you to all the people who contributed to that, to making that possible. And before I take the cover off there, I just wanted to say something that Kay said to me while we were sitting together. She said, if David were here, he could share a lot of dirt on all of us. So, which is absolutely true. I've been in contact with the family, his nephew and brother in Arkansas, and they were major contributors to the plaque, but they were very thrilled that we were able to put this together. And they, like all of us, I'm sure, will enjoy this presentation on YouTube. So the plaque is here. It's going to stay here during this meeting, and then we're going to take it to City Hall. So anybody who would like to, please check it out.
Yes. Thank you, Lenny Roberts. And also from the city is Brian Akins. Mr. Ojai. Yeah, just leave it up. We could file by it on our way out. Thank you, Lenny.
Thank you, Doctor.
Now, Lynn Doherty will be mentored by Steve Adams.
I'm sure you meant that for Lynn. Lynn apparently has a large and very well organized group of followers and fans. We're looking for a place to recycle all the printouts of her nominations. She's best known for her involvement in the music festival, and especially the Bravo project, which takes it's the music van that goes around to fourth graders in the area, lets them touch, feel, play different musical instruments, get a feel for what they feel like, what they sound like, and hopefully get their that is better. Hopefully get their interest piqued in music. She's also they describe it as during Ojai Day they have a booth in the park, and they describe it as a petting zoo for musical instruments. I met Lynn through the summer band, where I'm Bob's assistant and photographer, and she's been playing French horn for 27 years. All these things are 27, 28, 29 years. She plays with the summer band. again, starting on Tuesday, July 3rd, Wednesday, and so on. She's been playing with that for 27 years. She also plays in chamber orchestras and concert orchestras around the county. She's also involved in the tennis tournament. She has a program introducing children to playing tennis. Her partner, Helen, of 28 years, was also a living treasure in 2007. So Lynn, she can't hold that over you anymore. Anyway, are we going to have Lynn come up now, or? Okay, Lynn, come on up. You want to say anything? No, they don't. Okay, you have a year off before you need to say anything. Okay. There's a certificate. Look at Carl. Okay. Thanks.
These folks will get a chance to give a speech next year. So, welcome, Lynn. Next, Al West will say a few words about Karen Evenden and give her certificate when she gets back from her travels.
Well, thank you. Karen, unfortunately, many of you know, but couldn't be here this evening. But you know her for her work at Help of Ojai, very active in the Presbyterian Church, cooking for the homeless. Many of you know her as the cook of Ojai, along with Peggy Russell. She's written 2 books, one about Ojai. Very involved in the Ojai festivals and the Women's Hospital Guild. And the latest thing that was almost said was that she is really the co-founder with Peggy, a living treasure of the Women's Fund, and you heard that. She left me a note before she left and said, Al, we'll leave in early tomorrow, and I cannot leave town without saying thank you to each of you for selecting me to be an Ojai living treasure. It's an unexpected honor for which I am truly grateful. And she is a wonderful lady, and those that don't know her need to get to know her, and we'll hear more about her next year when she talks about what she does. I will make sure she gets this, Fred. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Next is Alan Greenberg. Come on up. And Brett Bradigan will say a few words.
Hey, Ellen. Congratulations. Ellen was nominated by multiple people, all involved with several of his many different projects, one of which is the Temple of the Oaks, the paddleball court, and then his very, very generous philanthropy to Ojai Valley School. And we'll learn more about Alan as the year goes on, but he's one of these people who could have lived anywhere, and he chose to live in Ojai, and we're the better for it. Alan, congratulations. If I can open this. I don't think so. Yeah, that looked nicely framed, and I have a pin for you as well. Thank you very much. Okay, Alan. Okay. Our next selection for a living treasure.
Toby Green come up, and Brett's going to mentor you also.
Yeah, well, Toby needs no monitoring or mentoring. In fact, she's made an illustrious career out of mentoring there's a whole generation of young women in Ojai who have learned how to be in the world, stand their ground, be amazing, well-rounded people through the Youth Empowerment Workshop. And Toby, it's just been long overdue. When I think of living treasure, I think of people like Toby Joe Green, also part of the Rotary family. There's her father over there, is a member of the Tuesday Club. So she gets what it's all about, and we're lucky to have her. Toby Joe, thank you. Oh, and you have a pin too.
I'm going to mentor Trevor Kirk. Is he here? Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I have 5 pages of single-space typing to pick from. I got it down to 5 sentences. McKinley Barnes and many others nominated him because of the work he did at the Thomas Fire, still doing. Apparently, he came home to where he lives on Sulphur Mountain and found the place ablaze. He promptly hooked up his equipment and did a perimeter of the brush clearing around his own property. Then he organized the rest of the people around there, and there was a lot of time and effort spent in clearing the brush and keeping the fire from spreading. Then he took 2.5 months of his own time, he's a 2-attorney office in Ventura, to organize a fund. People could donate, and the fund would distribute it on an organized and even-handed manner. I think he's going to be the Grand Marshal of the 4th of July parade this year. Oh, yeah.
You better look out for those water balloons.
Much
Super soaker.
Super soaker. Okay. Much time was also spent in Montecito, as I understand it. So, Trevor,
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
and a pin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
You're not supposed to.
Oh, I just wanted to mention real briefly. My son is 3rd grade at Topa Topa, and I think it was Mr. MacArthur was mentioning about the dictionaries, and Landon went, "Yes, I have one of those." So thank you very much.
Yeah. And last is Joyce Avery Robinson, who will be mentored by Dr. Rick Gould. Robinson.
I'm very happy to introduce Joyce Robinson to you. Joyce has been a teacher in Ojai since 1964 and has touched so many events in the town that I don't know where to start. She's a teacher at Chaparral for 25 years and for Ojai Elementary for 15 years. Miners Oaks. I worked with her on the music festival. She's in charge of the volunteers. The Ojai Education Fund. She's got me to go to that about 3 years in a row and make a contribution. So he's just going to have something here. Somebody thinks I had to write it down. Fundraiser, cocktail waitress at the Ojai Valley Inn. Realtor, bank clerk. Just too much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our ceremony. You're welcome to stay around. I think we have some refreshments left, and we'll reconvene in a year. Thank you. Yeah, stay around. The incoming treasurers needs to get photographed.